Hey guys, you're listening to the Energy of the Untamed Heart podcast, where we talk about uncaging your divinely gifted wild heart to be as free and expansive as you were born to be. My goal is to use our stories, guest interviews, and your questions to tease out what has been keeping your wild heart under wraps. I'm your host, Mielle Fox, and together we will shatter the myths of our old stories to set our wild heart free. So thanks for choosing you and showing up today. I have a lovely return guest with me today, Atousa, and I'm so excited because Atousa is our publisher for our new venture in Co. I want to take a few minutes to chat with Atousa about what her driving force behind this book was for her and how she feels it changes from her previous book. So I will let Atousa pop on, say hello, kind of introduce herself a little bit for anyone who isn't familiar with her work. And then we're going to talk a little bit about everything: joy, happiness, heartfulness, heart versus mindfulness, like all the things we're going to talk about today. So without further ado, Atousa, my dear friend, welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's great to be back. I love being here. And thank you for giving me space to talk about what I do, the books, and all the great stuff we're going to talk about. For those that don't know me, my name is Atousa Raissyan. I have many hats on. I am a transformational healer, shaman, digital artist, author, poet, and now I've taken on publishing as well. And I was so happy that you and the other authors said yes to me on my first sort of publishing adventure out there. The reason I decided to do the publishing for this book was that I already had two multi-author books and I did my own book, and I felt there was a lot missing in those experiences, and I wanted to do a little bit different and see how it was gonna come out. So this was like my experiment, sort of, that let's see if I can do it a little bit different and accomplish what I wanted, that I didn't get out of the other books. And one of the main things is that when you decide to become an author and put your story out there, whether if it's a chapter, 2 pages, a blog, or even a whole book, it doesn't matter. There's a healing in there. That story, when you're writing it, getting it out there, there's a healing experience. It's very triggering for people. And I wanted to be a more of a sort of the same way that people come to my studio and work with me, and we heal things and let go of things. I want it to be more of a healing experience than, oh, let me just go share my story out there and put it out there because I want to have the title of Amazon #1 bestseller, or I want to use this book for my business and get more money and get more talks. Yeah, all those things are great, but I want it to be first about the healing part of it. And I think when we all came together as a group, we really did set out to, everybody helped each other. And that was the second thing, was that can we all come together and establish a community, if not family, at least a community that we know we're going to be there for each other. There's a space that you've connected with these people on a different level. It's not about, oh, let me promote my business, oh, let me do this, but there's a place that you feel safe, that you say, hey, this is a space I feel safe, that you can come back to whenever you have something that you are vulnerable and you need support. You come back to this space and say, hey guys, I'm going through something, just need your love, just need your prayers, just need a hug. And I am very proud to say that this book and the authors have not just healed by putting their stories out there, but they have come together and created that space for themselves, that they all do feel safe to come and share a part of themselves.
I, as one of the authors, have to wholeheartedly agree that the community that we built in the writing of this book created not only new friendships, new connections, new collaborations, but I think it also served, over the months that we worked together, that each of us, through our experiences and our vulnerability, we're able to see how we're each actually reflections or mirrors for one another. What I mean is, as I was reading through other people's chapters, their actual worldly experience may not have been my own, but the essence of the wounding, the struggles, the feelings, the gains, the healing, all of those pieces were absolutely a reaffirmation that we are all truly connected as one. The wrapping might look a little different, the actual human experience might look a little different, but the soul energetic event was absolutely, I'm going to call it a unification for lack of a better description. We're all different and unique, but yet our commonality of what we were able to bring to the book through our experiences and the message that we were able to share for the reader, I think is very profound for sure.
Definitely, I agree. And to add to that, I think it happened because the intention and goal I set for this book was not to, hey, we're going to put it out there and make it a number one. Hey, we're going to just invite people. I need 20 authors to make this book, and I need 20 authors to come and write so we can put it out there and make money and do all this, blah, 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 blah. The whole intention of the book from the beginning, and when I reached out to everybody, was like, come share your story. And it was an invitation. I didn't go out, like, put it in social media, hey, who wants to sign up for this book? It was really by invitation that I sent it out to whoever came. Like, I sat there, it's like, who's coming to me to reach out to? And after I reached out to everybody, some said no, and the group that said yes, and there's 11 authors, including me, 12, but there were 11 people that said yes. And that was a magic number for me. As you know, 11 is my number.
So, just for the audience to share, so not only is 11 an extremely significant spiritual number, but from the numerology geeky side of me, I'll just give you two pieces of information here, which might really allow you to see the value in having intention towards something and the value in being an open receiver to allow what needs to come forward to have something actually become a creation. So 11, of course, is a highly spiritual number. It resides up in our spiritual plane for sure. So a connection to the divine, again, the one, and God, the God within us, and the universe outside of us, all interconnected, all interwoven. But if you add two things. If you add the one plus one, you get two. Two is a number of connection, of collaboration, of relationship. So again, pretty darn significant. If you take the two ones and just look at that number, it's literally as if you were looking to a mirror or reflector. So again, the number 11, I just feel is very, very significant here. And including yourself, bringing it to 12, when you combine one plus two, you get to three. Three is the number associated with amplification and abundance. So, for lots of reasons, there's just so much synchronicity here with this book, with our authors, with you, with our publishing. And if you wouldn't mind sharing briefly, for those who are not aware, the name of your publishing business is I Am Publishing. And if you wouldn't mind sharing for listeners who maybe don't understand right away the significance of the I Am, and you talk about it in your introduction in your chapter, which I think is so critical for people to really understand. Could you share that just a little bit, why the I Am is so significant?
When I wanted to do the publishing, I said, okay, the publishing, I didn't want to do it under my own name. I said, it needs a publishing name. I said, okay, so what do I want to do? And I said, okay, let me just take my name, and I want the two names of the people that are really very important to me. I'll just take the letter of their first names. And I was moving the three letters around to see, what I can come up with. And then when I put it, it's like, I am. I was like, wow. And that's the message of my book. And that it was the closing of the previous book. and I let it into this book, is I am. Everything starts with I am. If we can just stay in that I am, and going back to number 11, that everything is a mirror, is that all these identities that we see in the mirrors, and it's reflected back at us in the other people. It's about letting these identities go, letting it all go, so you can really see yourself. I am without any of these I identities. I am without any of these desires and all these attachments to things. It's just a simple, and another name for it, if you want to, again, your God self, your divine self, God within you, universe, life, whatever you want to call it. So that's that significance. I am is the really your pureness without anything. It's being one with everything in you, within you, and outside of you, bringing it all together as one.
It's really, it's so simplistically profound if you really just pare it down to just what is the resonance of I am? How does that feel when you, even when you say it, when I say it here speaking with you now, I feel this resonance in my heart, like a humming in my heart that is like, yes, that is the thing. And I certainly feel that many of us walking as our humans in this world, we tend to sort of lose a little bit of that, lose sight of it. We don't lose it, we just lose sight of it. And we talk a lot about becoming something. And you say it in your intro chapter, and I 100% agree with this. I don't think we're becoming anything. I think we are what we are. We're just sort of unraveling the perceived barriers to that. We're already the thing. We're already who we are at our core, and you're not becoming, you're not building in anything, you're just sort of removing the blocks to seeing the purity of the love that's already there. I really appreciate this description of this. The other thing that I just, and you have some beautiful, beautiful poetry that is woven into your chapter. A lot of it really just speaks so purely and so clearly to the essence of the one concept, the oneness concept. And one of them that you start discussing is the difference between joy and happiness. In that, joy is that feeling within the heart, it's the expression of who you really are at your core, that pure essence of divine love, as opposed to many of us who walk on this earth seeking this state of happy. And I really find that fascinating that one is stemming from truly the ego mind and the fear based thinking, almost the concept of, well, if I do certain things, if I acquire certain things, if I heal through certain things, then I will find this state of happy, which is a very different sensation and feeling of I am able to emit and feel joy regardless of what that particular outside state might look like. Is it a light state? Is it a shadow state? Is it a, what we call happy or sad? To still be able to live the joy within all the duality, because I do feel that a lot of people think, okay, if I just get rid of all these quote unquote bad things, that my life will be happy. And it's almost like, I'm going to say it's almost like trying to believe that you're going to be okay if you cut off your left leg because you'll have the right leg still working. Which, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of one-legged people who are doing just great, and I don't mean that in an offensive way at all. But what I'm trying to say is you can't ignore both sides. It's the mirror. It's the total mirror. Our state of current consciousness is the line between the opposing reflections of the mirror, the light and the dark. So you've got to have both in order to have the whole. And so you talk about that a little bit in the beginning, joy versus happiness. Can you talk about that?
Yes, you said it all beautifully.
Because I read it
So
several times and I love it.
it is. It's that we have gotten used to this human life of ours, which when you only get stuck in the human part of it is very much in that duality state, the good and the bad, the happy and the sad, the right and the wrong. Everything becomes about the duality. And we don't recognize that if you can't, when you only do the duality, you cannot have one without the other, because they have to keep balancing each other out. And that's where we live. But if you come outside of the duality, it's in that circle that brings that duality together. That you're okay, everything can be there together. And it's not about the light and dark or the good and bad, happy or sad. It's about the joy and love of seeing it all together. That you are the circle, you are the wholeness, you are the one that contains all of that. And but our identities, the trauma, whatever you want to call it, all that stuff that's got us in life experience, we keep going back and forth inside the circle, in the duality, in the light and shadow, and not coming out to say, hey, I'm beyond this. I am all of this and I'm none of it. I can just watch it and be it and enjoy it. But then if you go want to be happy, then you got to have sadness to feel the happiness, because it just doesn't work. You got to have the light and shadow together. You can't always be in the light if you're going to live in the duality, because every one of those identities we created is part of this duality, and for them to be true, the opposite of it must be true somewhere too. You can't have a victim. A victim needs an abuser. A victim needs a savior. So all of it has to be together. But then when you see, like, I am the complete, I am the whole, I am the one, that's the joy. The joy is seeing it all and saying, this is a human experience. I'm beyond that. And all of it can be, and I can still be joy watching it.
So, what I really, really appreciate in your description of this, which I think the way you've described it makes it so clear for the listener, for the reader, is what you're really describing is can one be the observer of what's going on? Because the observer position is actually that is your soul's expressions viewpoint. Can you be the viewer with no attachment, with no conditionality of what's within the circle, so that that removes it from the mind perspective? It puts it back into the heart space, the essence of your soul's perspective, without that attachment of the thoughts and what does this represent and mean and what do I need to do. So for me, when you talk about the bird's eye view or the observer view, it is truly about the being, because you don't need to do anything if you're observing. Once you make a choice about the observing is when you drop back into your mind to create some other response, action, whatever the thing may be. So when I think of your description of the circle and the wholeness, it instantly brings me to the symbol, which has a lot of meaning, again, without going down the science and geometry and numerology road. But there's a symbol that we speak about a lot called the flower of life, which is absolutely a representation of this concept that you're describing, where the duality lives within the circle and is interwoven and it cannot be separated one from the other, and actually requires the opposing in order to even exist within the circle. And the circle itself is the completeness of the wholeness of life. And of course, people are like, well, that sounds really all well and good. But here's the reality: your soul has chosen to be here on earth. Why? Because it needed to spend a little time here in the circle to experience what's in the circle, so that it can realize or become or work through the concept that it's not in the circle. The human piece of it is in the circle, and the soul piece of it is the circle itself.
Yes, I talk about all those things in the chapter, and I'm going to say it here. At some point, I'm taking this chapter. Well, not some point, I've already started. This chapter is going to become a book by itself. The concept is that what you said earlier when we started the show, heartfulness rather than mindfulness. When you
Mm,
said, even when I'm saying I am, I feel this flutter in my heart. And it's not a physical heart that we're talking about. It's the heart space. Let's call it the heart space. So, because everybody then gets stuck in their heart and they want to search to find it in their physical heart. Is there a flutter in there? No, it's this space, it's an essence of you. And we are all, when we come out of and you said it again, when we come into this physical form, we've sort of chosen what we want to experience again in order to find that we are whole, in order to find that we are complete, in order to find this space that we're talking about. And it is within you. It's not somewhere outside of you to go search for it. It's not something that you have to do. You just have to realize you're it. It's it. There is nothing else. What's happened is that you've put on so many layers of clothes or mask or whatever, that you've gotten lost in these identities that you've played in this reality of your humanness. And all these identities, they have their own attachments, desires, outcomes, all these things that they want. And everything's gone outside of you. You're living on this outside. Now, when you start to let go of these identities and attachment to having them and know you're safe, there's nothing wrong with you being you. And when you start to let go, all those attachments and desires goes along with those identities. And all that's left is that awareness and that knowledge that I am God, I am divine. I'm love. I'm all of this. This is all me. This is all my creation. And then it becomes that circle that we're all, when I honor that I am, I see you as I am. You may come out and you're in there and you're doing your little identities, but still you are whole and complete.
absolutely. And I cannot tell you who said it because I can't remember, but I've heard it said repeatedly is we are all pieces of the masterpiece so that when we can each identify with the wholeness of the one and see it in others, that further affirms that we are all just unique presentation pieces of the great masterpiece, which is the one, the masterpiece being the one, the whole unification of everything. So before we wrap up today, if there was one thing that you could share for readers that really feels very important for you to share, what would that be about our newly
Oh,
released
just
event?
one. How about I complete it into one sentence or a couple of sentences? But the
Sure.
one point is like awareness is number one, is the key, because that awareness is going to keep taking you back inside. Go inside to let go of those identities, because that's the next step. All these things that you're carrying, I'm this, I'm that. Yeah, go ahead and say it. I can say I'm an author, I'm an artist, but I'm not attached to it. Like tomorrow, if somebody comes and says you're not an artist, it's like, okay, I'm not, but I'm not attached to it. I'm not going to get hurt by it. It's like, oh my God, they told me I'm not an artist or whatever that is. I'm not attached to it. So let go of those attachments to these identities, personas, these characters you're playing in your so-called real life, and just move from that heart space and keep being aware. All these, the duality may come up, but you still have that place that you can be like, no, I am, without any of this stuff.
It's beautiful. I'm so, so excited for this venture.
Me
It's just so fun.
too.
So
Me too.
fun.
Me too. It is.
Yes. Beautiful. So thank you so much for taking a few moments this morning to talk about our release of our book, Activating the Divine Human. There will be links to put in the show notes, and I'm
Yes.
looking forward to
Yes.
seeing what you have coming up next, because it's like the seed that is just sprouting through the soil and will absolutely be blossoming into the most beautiful expression of I am. So I
Thank
thank
you.
you,
Thank you.
Atousa.
I'm grateful.
You are so dear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can't wait.